to our little workshop on essay conclusions. So these are essay conclusions for your literature studies essay. So you could be writing about a poem, a novel, play, anything like that. Now, what do you need in your conclusion? The basics is that you should have a title and or the author of the work that you're studying. You should have your thesis statement reworded. That's really important. Now, you'll have your thesis statement in your introduction paragraph. It's important that you don't simply cut and paste it and put it into your conclusion. It needs to be rephrased for the conclusion. And you should recap your key points. So they're going to be the topics of each of your topic sentences in your body paragraphs, or the key arguments that you have made in the body of your essay. So let's talk a little bit about the thesis statement. Now, if you remember from the introductions video, a thesis statement is what your essay proves about the text that you're studying. And it's an answer to the essay question or your research question. All right, let's talk about endings, because your conclusion paragraph is an ending. What different types of endings can you have? Now, this might be the last sentence in your conclusion, or your whole conclusion might focus around one of these things. So we can have evaluation endings, and this is an ending where you, the writer, evaluates how well the piece is written or how effective the piece engages the audience. It's your judgment on the piece. The other type is an opinion. What's your opinion on the piece? You could also have a call to action, which is what you want the reader of the essay to think or feel or do next. Or you could also end with some sort of relevance to the wider world, some sort of connection. It might be a connection to other texts. It might be a connection to a relevant global issue. Some sort of connection to the broader world. Now, there are some things you should avoid with conclusions. Now, it's not a fatal flaw by any means, but it certainly makes your writing sharper if you avoid cliched phrases such as in conclusion or in summary. Now, it's okay to use those words when you're drafting your essay to just get you into the conclusion paragraph. But when you submit your final piece, you should delete those cliche phrases and get straight to the conclusion, because it makes your writing a lot more impactful. And a fatal flaw is adding new information. Definitely do not add new information in your essay conclusion, because you need to have all of your evidence for your arguments in the body of the essay. All right, let's take a look at some examples. Here's an example from an essay that dealt with Siegfried Sassoon's poem, Suicide in the Trenches. So let's take a look at this. Sassoon effectively expresses the horror of trench war in Suicide in the Trenches by making changes in mood and tone, crafting stark imagery and using contrast. The poem remains as relevant today as it was in 1918 because it warns against sending youth into battle without reservation. Sassoon uses his art to remove the naivete of the reader on the glory of war. All right, let's take a look at our annotation. So we've got our author, and we've got an evaluation style of a conclusion here. We've got our thesis statement. So this whole thing is the thesis statement. Expresses the horror of trench war in Suicide in the Trenches by making changes in mood and tone, crafting stark imagery and using contrast. That's all the thesis statement. We've got the poem title. We've got our key points mentioned: mood and tone, crafting stark imagery, using contrast. These points will have been thoroughly explained in the body of the essay. And this student has finished off with a final point and opinion. Sassoon uses his art to remove the naivete of the reader on the glory of war. So that's a nice way to wrap up. Let's take a look at a second example. Now, this one comes from an essay on Maya Angelou's poem, Million Man March. Angelo effectively uses repetition and rhythm, creating a call for freedom and equality. The auditory quality of Million Man March poem captures the audience's attention and helps them feel part of the crowd, making the poem a perfect piece of performance at a rally or demonstration. Angelo's work merits emulation by future civil rights activists. All right, let's take a look at our annotation. So we've got our author, and in this case, the author is active, and I prefer to have our authors or readers as active participants in this, when we're writing about them. We've got some evaluation here. Effectively uses repetition and rhythm, creating a call, and this is our thesis statement. Repetition. Angelo effectively uses repetition and rhythm, creating a call for freedom and equality. That's our thesis statement. Now, how this writer has finished up, concluded this poem, ended the essay, they've ended it with relevance to the wider world, making the poem a perfect piece of performance at a rally or demonstration. Angelo's work merits emulation by future civil rights activists. So that's why it's still relevant today. All right, let's look at one more example. Shakespeare challenged the absurd idea that men must feel emotions and act one way while women feel and act the opposite. It is much more to the truth that men and women have equal claim to emotions and actions. This was made clear by the absurdity of Lady Macbeth calling on satanic spirits for many emotions. At the same time, the great warrior Macbeth, full of self-doubt, displayed womanly worry. Finally, the gender role swapping extended beyond a husband and wife squabble when Macduff declared he must feel his sorrow like a man before he could act as a man. 400 years after his social commentary, humanity has come far in gender equality, but still with room to grow. All right, so this is from an essay dealing with Shakespeare's Macbeth, and from my colleague as an example to students for writing conclusions. So let's annotate it and see what's going on here. So we've got the author, and the author is active. Shakespeare challenged. We've got our thesis statement. It is much more to the truth that men and women have equal claim to emotions and actions. We've got our key points. Lady Macbeth, and Macduff are our key points. So those three characters will have been discussed in detail in the body of the essay. And now we're finishing up with an opinion. You could also say this is a type of relevance to the wider world because it's making a connection to gender equality, which is still an issue today. All right, that's it on conclusions for your Lit Study essay. I hope that was helpful, and enjoy your essay writing. Bye.